My name is Alice. I'm 28 years old and I work in childcare. Recently, I got engaged to my boyfriend Tom, and today I'm visiting his parents' house for the first time. Tom graduated from a prestigious university and works for a renowned company. He's not only smart but also respected by his colleagues, and I've always admired him deeply. Tom's father welcomed our engagement warmly, saying, "We never had a daughter. Your future mother-in-law will be thrilled." However, I noticed that my future mother-in-law seemed upset, sitting next to him with a grimace on her face. While I was observing her, she suddenly asked, "I heard you didn't graduate high school. Is that true?" Our Tom is an elite, having graduated from a famous university. Do you think I'd approve of a marriage between an elite and someone of your status? I was taken aback by her harsh words. "Mother-in-law, how can you say such things? You're being rude to Alice," Tom's father interjected. "Exactly, Mom. Her educational background shouldn't matter," Tom added, standing up for me. But this only seemed to upset her more. Isn't it natural for a mother to be concerned about the education and occupation of her son's future spouse? Children inherit their mother's DNA, don't they? Don't I want to leave behind excellent genes?" she argued. It was clear that my future mother-in-law wasn't going to approve of me because I didn't finish high school. This was deeply hurtful. There was a reason I dropped out of high school. I grew up in a single-parent home after my father died in a traffic accident. My mother was frail and struggled to raise me and my twin sister, Emma. To alleviate her burden, I started working after middle school. Now I'm attending night school to get my high school diploma, and I'm saving money to possibly go to college. Tom has been incredibly supportive, even offering to help pay for my college education. Tom understands my background, and his kindness is one of the reasons I decided to marry him. But his mother's disapproval worries me, especially since we will be living with his parents in the future. A month before our wedding, I moved into my future in-laws' house. Between work, school, and wedding preparations, I was very busy. Today, as I was applying makeup to head to the wedding venue, my mother-in-law exclaimed, "Oh my, what on earth are you wearing?" "I'm about to head to the venue, so I thought I'd dress up," I replied, unsure if she was displeased with my outfit or just seizing an opportunity to criticize me. "Huh, you say you're going to the venue, but you're just dressing like that to attract men, aren't you? You're such a careless woman," she accused. I was stunned. I explained that I was meeting Tom at the venue and that she could ask him if she doubted me, but she just assumed the worst. Then she did something outrageous. She messed up my carefully styled hair. "Hey, what are you doing? I spent so much time getting ready," I exclaimed. With my hair a mess, I couldn't go out and had to fix it. This incident left me worried about how things would work out living with her in the future. But seeing my disheveled hair, my mother-in-law cheerfully said, "There's no need to fix it. This hairstyle suits a high school dropout like you. You should wear your hair like this for the wedding." Since I was already running late, I quickly fixed my hair and headed to the venue where Tom was waiting. He was at the entrance, immediately concerned about my downcast expression. I was torn about whether to tell him what had happened earlier, but I decided not to bring it up since we were about to discuss the ceremony and I didn't want to dampen the mood. One day, close to the wedding, my mother-in-law made a surprising suggestion. "Hey, Alice's mom lives far away, doesn't she? It must be tough for her to come, and she'll have to pay for a hotel. Why doesn't she stay at our house?" Tom and I were both surprised by her sudden proposal. If we could save on hotel costs, my mother would be happy, and it would also facilitate interaction between our families. Tom suggested I ask my mother about it, so I did right away. My mother was very pleased with the idea, and it was decided that my twin sister Emma would also come that day. Initially, I thought my mother-in-law was making the suggestion out of goodwill, but I couldn't have imagined the outrageous things she would do next. The day before the wedding, my mother and sister came to stay at my in-laws' house. Seeing them made me very happy. I have a particularly close relationship with my sister, and we were so thrilled to see each other after a long time that we decided to sleep together that night. Emma, who had been drinking, fell asleep right away. No matter what happens, Emma won't wake up once she's like this. Just as I was thinking it was getting late and I should get some sleep too, I suddenly felt the door to our room open. As I wondered what it could be, I heard a loud buzzing sound followed by the noise of something being shaved. "Now you won't be able to attend tomorrow's ceremony, will you?" No meat for hair for a poor middle school dropout, my mother-in-law said. Shocked, I turned on the room lights and exclaimed, Mother-in-law, what are you doing? The person in the bed suddenly sat up, startling my mother-in-law as well. Huh? Mother-in-law, you're Alice, aren't you? She stammered. No, that's not my hair. We're twins and our faces really look alike. But it wasn't me whose hair was shaved with clippers. It was my sister Emma. My mother-in-law seemed to be in shock. What? No way, why wasn't it Alice? Emma, who had apparently drunk too much, was sound asleep. When she wakes up in the morning and realizes her hair has been shaved off, she will surely be very angry. Unlike me, Emma has a strong temperament, so it's obvious she'll be furious. What will you do now, mother-in-law? I'm not going to cover for you. Feeling guilty, my mother-in-law left the room with a pale face. The next day, Emma looked in the mirror and was shocked and furious to find she was bald. Our mother, who was present at the scene, also shed tears in shock, and Tom could not hide his disturbance. This is terrible. Who on earth did this? Tom asked. I revealed everything that had happened the previous night in front of everyone. I was wondering what kind of face my mother-in-law would wake up with this morning, but she wasn't there. According to my father-in-law, she said she was going for an early morning walk and hadn't returned yet. I thought she had run away, so I revealed everything to our relatives and decided to search for her. About 30 minutes later, I got a call from a relative saying they had found her at a nearby convenience store and my father-in-law headed there. When my mother-in-law returned home, she was full of excuses. I didn't do anything. It's all Alice's fault. Alice used the clippers on her own and shaved off Emma's hair while she was sleeping next to her. To my surprise, my mother-in-law was trying to pin the blame on me. Shocked, I retorted, Don't be ridiculous. I didn't do anything. Weren't you the one who came into the room yesterday? It's terrible that you're still lying at this point. Even so, my mother-in-law was reluctant to admit her guilt. Then my father-in-law, as if he had remembered something, went outside and came back with something. Alice, could this be the clipper? Looking at the clipper in his hand, I recognized it immediately. That's it. That's the clipper. But where was it? It turned out that the clipper originally belonged to my father-in-law, who was always concerned about his appearance and carried grooming tools with him. When he checked his car, the bag containing his grooming tools was ransacked, and the clipper was the only thing missing. I always leave my car keys in the bedroom. If there's brown hair in this clipper, it's definite that the culprit is your mom, he said, starting to dismantle the clipper. Inside there was brown hair, undoubtedly Emma's. It must have been because she had to rush out in the dark that my mother-in-law couldn't properly dispose of the hair. Seeing the remaining hair, my mother-in-law collapsed to her knees. Alice, it's your fault. Despite being a middle school dropout and poor, you deceived smart Tom. I wanted you to give up on him at all costs. I became disgusted by her selfish words. But the angriest was Emma, whose hair had been shaved off. I don't care about your circumstances. What are you going to do about this? I can't attend the wedding like this. Hearing Emma's complaint, my father-in-law made a call to an acquaintance who was a hairdresser. He agreed to rush over with a wig right away. This would temporarily solve Emma's hair problem. But they couldn't just leave my mother-in-law's actions unaddressed. 30 minutes later, the hairdresser arrived with a wig, and Emma's hair was beautifully restored. At first, my father-in-law thought about shaving my mother-in-law's hair as retribution, but it didn't feel satisfying. So he decided to expose her wrongdoing in front of everyone. Among the attendees were landlords to whom my mother-in-law's parents had been indebted for generations. They were close friends with my father-in-law, and hearing about this incident would undoubtedly impact my mother-in-law's parents' house. The landlord, a righteous person, had been giving them a discount on their apartment rent. Learning about my mother-in-law's actions could mean raising the rent back to its original price or even evicting them. Her parents were poor and had no money. If they were evicted, they would surely come to my mother-in-law's place. But she didn't get along with her parents and wouldn't care for them. Living with her parents would undoubtedly be the beginning of hell for her. Wait, please. I'll be in trouble if you do that. I'm sorry. It was my fault. I got carried away and did such a thing. I'm sorry, Emma. I'll pay you damages, so please forgive me, my mother-in-law pleaded, rubbing her forehead against the floor. But even with apologies, Emma's hair would not come back. After discussion, it was decided that my father-in-law and Tom would reveal my mother-in-law's wrongdoings. Emma had already agreed to this. My mother-in-law said she didn't want to go to the wedding and tried to run away. But she couldn't because Emma and Tom held her back. Upon arrival at the venue, relatives who knew the situation through messages came to us looking very worried. We exposed my mother-in-law's wrongdoing in front of everyone, and Emma took off her wig to show her bald head. Everyone was shocked, especially the women who couldn't believe it. Hair for a woman is like a lifeline. Imagine the shock of having it suddenly shaved off with clippers. Thinking of Emma, some people were in tears. Then, as expected, the landlord came to my mother-in-law and asked if what happened was true. At first she tried to deceive him, but my father-in-law urged her to tell the truth, and she finally confessed. The landlord, flushed with anger, was also accused by the women. After that, my mother-in-law remained downcast during the ceremony, which was unimaginable from her usually spirited self. The wedding itself ended smoothly, and it was a great joy to be blessed by many people. However, we could no longer live with my mother-in-law in that house. Naturally, we decided to move into an apartment and live as a couple. My mother-in-law panicked about us leaving the house. She cried out that it was her fault and begged us not to leave, but we couldn't live with her. My father-in-law felt the same. He told my mother-in-law that he was going to divorce her and asked her to leave the house. She turned pale and clung to him, saying, "Please reconsider. Where will I live if I leave this house? I don't get along with my parents. If they find out about the divorce, they'll definitely tell me to come back to care for them." She was trembling as if she could collapse at any moment, but thinking about Emma, I didn't care about my mother-in-law's situation. I never dreamed my hair would be shaved off while I was sleeping, mistaken for me. She persistently tried to persuade us afterward, but since my father-in-law contacted her parents, she reluctantly left the house. Currently, my mother-in-law is living with her estranged parents and seems to be taking care of them. Apparently, her parents have difficult personalities, and she is completely worn out by their selfishness. She has called us several times to say she wants to start over, but we have no intention of living with her, so we just blocked her calls. Now we are living happily with my father-in-law in his home. The house was quite old, so we decided to renovate it together. My father-in-law built his dream study, Tom created a place to display model figures, and I installed a state-of-the-art kitchen. Of course, we also created a room for the child who will be born in the future, and now the three of us are living comfortably. Emma's hair, which was shaved at that time, has now grown back into a short style that her friends highly rate as a good change of image. She talks about that time as if it were a joke, telling various friends, which actually complicates my feelings more. Emma occasionally comes over for sleepovers at our family home, and I look forward to that. There may be many difficulties in the future, but I believe we can all work together and push through.